I know I'll never be creating a game like Fortnite. And not for technical reasons. Well, not just for technical reasons. Obviously, technical reasons, this game was not created by one guy like me. But I can learn a lot of that, and you can actually buy a lot of assets that get you very close to something like Fortnite. But there are business reasons on why I would not tackle a game like that. Big multiplayer, mass multiplayer, MMORPGs, whatever you want to call them. All those online things, I never burn my hands on them. Hey, I'm Pascal from Orangepixel and welcome to another video. I've been an independent game developer since 2004, doing it full time. I've built a lot of different type of games. Built a lot of platform games, like a lot of platform games, racing games. I've built an open world game. Horizontal shooters, which were still a thing back in the day. Very weird touchscreen experimental games when touchscreens only just started existing. And I created like a Lemmings type of game before smartphones and touchscreens were a thing. So this was on like old-fashioned Nokias. Look it up on Google or TikTok. Turn-based games, deck building games, but also a lot of dungeon crawlers because I still love those things. I created a lot of genres and I like doing all those things. But there's a couple of genres that just are not on my radar for mostly business reasons. Not creative reasons, not technical reasons, business reasons. So let's talk about those things after the intro. So at the start of the year I called out for topic ideas. One of those ideas is genres I would avoid creating. Now this was actually harder than I thought because I started thinking which kind of games will I never create or don't I want to create, and there's not a lot. I like to experiment in genres and I like to do different things and try it out and mix and blend stuff together. But I came up with a couple of things I don't create. And that's not because it's technically too difficult, because you can learn things and you can also just use a lot of assets and things like that if you want to go that route. It's also not because I dislike them or have a certain preference or hate relation with something like that. It's all about business. Couple of game genres I don't think are interesting to tackle or maybe too risky to do if you're a small team or a solo game developer like me and don't have a lot of budget. Then I think these genres are something we all should try to avoid. And the first one is multiplayer games. And not because multiplayer games are terrible, they're a lot of fun. But you need one element, and that's already hinted in the word multiple players. You need a lot of players for a game like that to succeed. Of course, having a solo single player experience and then being able to add multiplayer on top of that, go for it, best way to do it. But going exclusively for a multiplayer game, don't go for it. Honestly, you need just so many players. It's even harder than selling a single player game because now you need servers that have a lot of players. Now there are a lot of little tiny multiplayer games out there, but they actually use a lot of AI, bots, and not actually human players. So you'll be moving around. A lot of those IO games, I think they're called, or usually have an extension of IO and are played on the web. They just have a lot of non-human players. And that's one way of doing it, but that's not really a multiplayer game, is it? It's just a technically interesting little thing, a little toy, but still a single player experience. Second problem with multiplayer games, server and server costs. You need to operate a server and keep it up and running, and if your game does become a hit in some way, it's going to be costly and it's going to be hard making sure, because you need a lot of different servers to cover all the regions on the planet. You can't just have your server in your basement and have everybody connect to that one. It's not going to work. Of course, you can have self-hosted servers, but that's technically a different problem. And then again, you have the problem of having a game and then somebody needs a lot of friends connecting to their server, and you just don't invite everybody in the world to your private server. So it's just a lot of hassle. And also, you're going to be up against some of the big boys like Fortnite. It's hard. They have big budgets. We as smaller independent game developers do not. So I pretty much avoid multiplayer games like that for those reasons. Second one is, I think, mostly a mobile genre, although it's also starting to happen on PC and console here and there. Games as a service. And I mean, there are a lot of those games already on PC, but on mobile they're pushed a little further. The problem with that is content and just tweaking a lot of things, because usually these games are free, given away for free, and then when you start playing you run into paywalls and you need to start paying for things if you want to continue faster and further and become bigger and better faster than the other players. And that's kind of the catch. There's a lot of data science going on behind the screens of those type of games that you need to actually know about and really dig into and put a lot of time into that. When are players starting to abandon the game? When are they continuing to play even more? And how can we actually make that into something that they have to pay for? And how do we... It's a different science than creating games. The other problem in that is that you're actually up against a couple of juggernaut companies. Some of these bigger games in the top 10 rarely change. They are the same type of games, and there are companies behind those games that actually have millions to burn in creating advertisement for their game. Maybe they're making like 10 million, 8 million of that is going back into advertising to have their game come on top every time again and show up in every media and every other game that's advertising. Their game is up there, and you pretty much have to find a way to compete with such big juggernauts. Again, as a smaller independent game developer, I don't think that's what you want. And also the data science behind it isn't like a real job. It really requires a lot of time and effort and work. I'm not sure if that's something you want to do, because it's very different from game development. And personally, I never found it interesting at all looking at data. And now the thing that goes for both these games as a service, but also multiplayer games, you're always going to be up against these big companies. And on PC, that's Fortnite. Minecraft is still a thing, and a bunch of other. Call of Duty, I think, is still being played a lot after like 2 decades or something. The problem there is players only have an X amount of time to spend on games. And of course, the younger you are, the more time you have, and the older you get, the less time you have. Unless you get very old, then you have all the time in the world again. But there aren't many 70 or 80 plus gamers yet, I think. Not sure. Could be a topic for a video. So your game has to actually fight for time and attention from players versus games like that. And the problem here is that if somebody plays Fortnite, they have their community and friends all playing Fortnite. They're not going to move away from that community and play another game, because they don't just want to play the game, they want to be in that community. So you need to somehow create a hype around your game that makes it so interesting to pull away people or pull whole communities away from a game into your game and keep them there. Sounds like another job that I'm not really interested in as a game developer. I just want to create fun games. And that might mean people only spend like 20, 30 hours on my game and then they'll be back in all the other games. That's fine. That's going to be my experience. That's going to be my tiny package to the world of gaming. And I'm not going to compete with the huge time wasting games, because I can't. I simply can't. And on top of all the data, the asset creation, you can't do that alone. They have whole teams creating 3D models, creating textures, creating game content, playable interaction and things that need to be added to the game, and they have to be able to test it before they run it and release it to a live audience in the wild. And so much stuff behind the scenes for those type of games. It's just, you need a big team to compete with that. And that brings me to the last one, because I really had to dig for genres that I would never tackle. And this is really, I think this is more a personal preference of mine, gambling games. They are games, I guess, but they also, I think they prey on weakness, and certain people really have a addiction problem in gambling, and I don't think you should be creating, it feels bad to create a game like that just to make your money off of somebody else's weakness. It just doesn't feel right. And I think business-wise, besides that, if you can step over that, there's still the problem that gambling is different in every country. There are different rules and regulations, and you'll have to figure out all those things, because before you know it, they'll be suing you for something because they have different rules and laws, and you'll actually have to defend yourself in that country, and that's going to be expensive as well. I think it's going to be more of a hassle than actually a fun thing to do. So I'm pretty sure I'm never going to create a gambling game. And I've been digging more and more, but those are, I mean, there are a lot of genres that I would love to create, but I really can't, or technically right now I can't. Though that's maybe going to be another topic for another video, because I think these are all the type of genre games I would never make, and it's mostly for business reasons. I'd love to create a Fortnite-like title where everybody dives in and connects to it every evening and plays for hours and hours with all their friends. That would be amazing and awesome, and it would be a cool dream. But I also know I can't compete with games like that. So it would have to be on some sort of tiny scale, and I'm not sure that would be interesting enough to focus all my work on, and also just the risk of running out of funding and then having a game that needs players to play it or needs to be updated constantly. Those type of things are just, I just don't think that's a safe bet for me as a solo game developer. So let me know what you think, and which genres would you not tackle, and am I wrong? Would you actually do multiplayer game? Have you done it? Have you been able to create something that competes with those type of games at the lower level? Obviously you're not making millions as a small team, but have you done it? Let me know in the comments. I might be wrong, but I don't think there are any actual independent game developers that have created games like this successfully. So let me know if I'm wrong. And thanks for watching the video. Like, subscribe, comment below, all that. Come hang out on the Discord and let me know what you think about this setup. I think I'll be using this a lot more and twist up the video format a little bit just to try out new things. Let me know, and I'll see you next week. Bye.